So, hello everyone. Welcome to our Inspiring Thoughts podcast today. I'm absolutely delighted to have Dean Giles with us, also known as Dino, and I've known Dino for I think nearly 18 months, 2 years. Dino, which is great, isn't it?
Yeah,
So, I'm super chuffed. So, Dino works for Haven. And he's the head of learning and development there. So he's got a real big responsibility delivering work throughout the parks and also Hempstead head office to make sure that the colleagues are really involved and developed through the process. So, Dino, welcome on board and thank you for coming on our podcast.
it's great to be here, and it's great to be doing the podcast. My first one actually, so looking forward to
Oh, fab, definitely. So
it.
this is a great thing for us. So, Dino, a lot of people, and Dino's had 7 questions in advance, so it gives Dino time to prepare, and we get that real rich thinking from Dean. So, Dino, would you just give us a brief career history? How did you get into L&D and those kind of bits? Because I know you've got a really good career. Would you share with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I get asked this question quite a lot, actually. How did you fall into learning and development? And I think for anyone in learning development, you kind of fall into it by chance. I think it's one of those
Yeah,
careers that you kind of come out of school thinking, actually, that's what I'm going to do. So I had many roles before I actually fell into L&D, and then I was actually working in aviation, which is where I spent most of my career.
yeah,
When someone came over to me and said to me, do you know what? You'd make a great L&D professional. You know, the way that you
yeah,
work with people, the way that
yeah,
you'll take the time to sit with them,
yeah,
coach them. Well, I didn't know it
yeah,
was coaching at that time, but coach them
yeah,
and mentor them. You'd be great. And my instant response was actually, no, this isn't something I could do, because
yeah,
I remember getting up at school and doing presentations. My palms are sweaty. I was coming up
yeah,
in rashes. But you know what? I took a leap of faith, and
yeah,
because someone believed in me, I thought, you know what? I'm going to give this a go. And I remember the first time I sat in a classroom, delivered
yeah,
learning, and I came away, and it was so refreshing because it just felt right. There was something that triggered
yeah,
in me, that working with people, not just about what I was given, but
yeah,
actually the every conversation that took place in that room and what I took away from that.
yeah,
And that's what really keeps me in learning even today, is actually you get to meet so many people. Everyone's got a great story, everyone's got a great background, everyone's got something they can teach you, and there's
yeah,
those conversations that happen in a room that you enables you as an L&D professional to kind of put them in your toolkit as such, and
yeah,
kind of bring them out at the relevant moment when needed.
yeah.
So I've had a great career, a rewarding career, both from a technical point of view. So you started developing more technical
Yeah,
capabilities, and then that grew into much more of the kind of the soft skills, the behavioural side, and the leadership side. My first head of learning development role was for the Monarch Group, and at that opportunity brought additional responsibility and
yeah,
opportunities, in the fact that it wasn't just L&D. I took a step into
yeah,
talent acquisition and
yeah,
team engagement, employee engagement, and
yeah,
done that for 5 years, and I absolutely loved it. What I enjoyed about that was it become more than about not necessarily being in the room all the time, but actually looking at how you can create great learning interventions, opportunities
yeah,
across an organization that was going to benefit people, but was also going to benefit business.
yes,
And that really got my kind of strategic thinking ticking away, and my
yeah,
creativity and innovation, all of that great stuff.
yeah,
And I've been kind of in a head of role or senior role capacity now, probably for the past 10 years or so,
yeah,
and love it as much today as I did when I first stepped into it. So it's definitely my favourite career path.
yeah,
I love the people that I work with. I love the visibility you get through L&D, and I love the difference you can make through the
yes,
right L&D interventions. So that's
yeah.
that's me in a snapshot.
Yeah, and it's so I think first of all, people will probably get from the podcast about your passion, which is beautiful. And even I think I messaged you yesterday saying what a beautiful email you sent to me. It was really motivating, really inspiring. So you can see today and feel from Dino's passion, which is amazing. What I like though, Dino, if you go back about your career journey, I really like that you said someone believed in you
Yeah,
and
yeah.
gave you that kind of hope I can do it. And I think that's so important as in L&D and in leadership about believing in people and trusting them. That's a big characteristic, isn't it?
Yeah, do you know what I think? Yeah, the power of belief, I truly
Yeah,
believe in. I think if you're made to believe something there, and you truly believe it yourself, you will go out there and you'll do everything you can to kind of bring it to life, but make it real.
yeah,
And I think it was just that one conversation to say that someone had spotted something in me that
yeah,
I hadn't seen in myself,
yes,
that got me then thinking about what that could be longer term.
yeah,
But what it did is it because they believed in me, I started to believe that I could do this,
yes, yeah,
and that was the difference. That if I'd have walked into it not believing that I could have done it,
yeah,
then I would have probably been setting myself up to fail from the outset. So
yeah,
I think power belief and belief in others, whether you're a leader, whether you're an L&D
yeah,
professional, whether you're you know just a person that
yeah.
you're working with, makes a huge difference. And those conversations are really really powerful.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, especially when people are younger and that, saying to like, give them the opportunities to do things, and I think going back in my career, people that believed in me and said you'll be quite good at that, and you go really, and you do believe in it, but the bit of then changing your comfort zone to a new comfort zone and stretching and developing, it's just a wonderful experience to really kind of go through that transition, isn't it? Really great experience.
Yeah, and do you know what? I'm a true believer that it only takes one person to change the course of direction. And I think
Yeah,
if I look back at my career, I think the most valuable support and experiences that I've had are those individuals that have taken the time to offer me feedback,
yeah,
to offer me mentoring, to offer me
yeah,
coaching, really personalizing it to me so that I
yeah,
can really get it, and giving me stuff that I could really do things with that
yeah,
actually has made me go from strength to strength. And
yes,
you could ask me, who those people are, and I can go back to them and name
yeah,
every single person that made a difference in my career.
yeah,
And actually, I talk a lot about those people, when I'm delivering training, because I
yeah,
think actually it just brings it to life.
yeah.
Um,
It's those rich stories and also vulnerability as well that
yeah,
people then can connect to, isn't it? If you
yeah,
show a bit of humility and vulnerability, people go, "Do you know what? Yeah, you're not superhuman. You've gone through this journey, and I can do that." It gives people belief. And what
absolutely.
would you say, Dino, is the biggest challenges you face in L&D at the moment? What's the biggest challenges you see?
I think there's a number of challenges actually, and this is something that you could kind of go
Yeah,
on forever. But I think when we look at businesses and the shape of where we are in the world today, I think digital transformation is something that is just, especially after the pandemic, is just increasing in speed,
yeah,
and therefore job roles are either merging, changing, evolving. And I think one of the biggest challenges is obviously from an L&D side is actually just keeping up with those challenges,
yeah,
making sure that the workforce is able to harness the power of new digital tools, but also
yeah,
then reskilling that workforce in good time.
yeah,
And I think what we're learning and what businesses need to do is that, again, it's that partnership thing. As digital evolves, technology evolves, L&D need a seat at the table right from the start,
yes,
so that they can understand, the what's and the whys, and then really build out a great, or create a
yeah,
great effective migration plan and
yeah,
strategy to really bring it to life. So I think
yeah,
that's one. I think that the other one that I would say is company culture. And again, a lot of this feeds off the pandemic. I think we're still learning really about what that pandemic, that COVID period,
yeah,
has done to businesses and us as human beings.
yeah,
But I think we work in a very very different environment. There's a lot more businesses now that are encouraging people to come back into buildings and offices to be much more collaborative, because
yeah,
I think we all saw there was an impact on potential well-being for
yes,
many, for many.
yeah,
So I think there's a bit there around you're having to relearn how to integrate
yeah,
into a community.
yeah,
I think during the pandemic, I think I call them soft skills, but I think I think some of that had been lost. The ability to communicate, the ability to interact,
yeah,
because it became very transactional, and it become a new norm.
Yes.
So I think we're having to re-educate ourselves and those around us on what great communication looks like, what great team interaction looks
Yeah.
like, how to be very inclusive in the way that
Yeah.
we work and operate. And especially if you've got a bit of a hybrid team where
Yeah.
some are perhaps remote and some are, you're working
Yes.
closely within a building. So it's from an L&D point of view, we've got a great opportunity to kind of, I guess, accelerate that re-education
Yeah.
to build, and reform great company culture.
Yeah.
Um,
And and I can see that was that big breath from you there of going, actually, this is a real big passion for yours, and I know it is about that integration of people back working together, communication. How do we get the best from each other? And I know with Haven, the work you're doing about getting people back in, the training courses you do, the delivery to get as many people collaborating, those coffee chats as well that people get to have and really kind of sit down and go, right, how you doing, how you feeling? And I know that you're kind of one of those leaders around that hybrid working, but getting people back in the office and touch base, isn't it? So important. You can really see that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and it's coming together with purpose, and I think that's the
Yes.
difference. We're not
Yeah.
coming together for the sake of coming together. Really,
Yeah.
we're coming together with true purpose, and that's really to kind of go out there and make difference, create change, and do our best work. And I think
Yeah.
by doing that together, you get a better outcome. I think
Yeah.
as an individual, you can sit there and generate thoughts and be creative and
Yeah.
come up with ideas, but actually to have those challenged and stretched and to
Yeah.
have other ideas coming from around the
Yeah.
table actually just allows you to do your best work.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably one more in there around that I'm seeing much more. A bit of a trend is this whole personalization in learning. I think
Yeah.
gone are the days where kind of everything was kind of fixed with a kind of a training program that won over a period of time. I think they're still valuable, and I think they still
Yes.
have their place, especially when kind of developing leaders
Yes.
is a
Yeah.
good example. But I think what we're seeing much more of now is that actually individuals want much more of a personalized learning
Yes.
experience. They still
Yeah.
want it to be fun. They still want it to be engaging.
Yeah.
They want it to be easy or fairly
Yeah.
easy to complete, and they want it to be fairly immersive.
Yeah.
So I think from an organizational point of view, that's kind of stretching the L&D spectrum to say,
Yes.
there's no one way that will fit everyone. What we need to
Good.
understand, it comes back down to those quality conversations that we have
Yeah.
as a performance cycle or those ongoing
Yeah.
coffee chats. It's really understanding the individual, understanding where the individual is in their career,
Yeah.
obviously having those genuine, honest, open conversations around where the strengths are and where the even
Yes.
betters are, but then ensuring that they can access learning
Yeah.
that they feel is worth spending the time in, and actually they
Yeah.
can see the value is going to come from it. So
Yeah.
I think from an L&D perspective, it's becoming much more now. We need to start thinking bigger and thinking much more of a blend on how we can
Yeah.
deliver much more personalized experiences.
Yeah. And we've definitely seen that with the work that we do is about blend. It's not all about a day's training course. It could be a 2-hour fix. It could be an e-learning. It could be those kind of things that fit with a colleague to get that. But the key to it is in that bringing that closing the loop of talking about it, getting that discussion. What are people taking forward? That's where I see that good L&D part is then bringing out the next steps. You've done that training. What's the next steps to really get that kind of embedded approaches? And that's the super important part. That's the nice juicy bit, isn't it?
Definitely, and I'm a true believer that the learning is one part. You can accelerate someone's growth through learning interventions, and whether that be digital, whether it be
Yeah.
kind of in a room, it's the great quality conversations that you have once you've completed that learning
Yeah.
to encourage the transfer, to kind of take it
Yes.
forward, to show interest that you
Yes.
want this person or
Yeah.
these people to be at their best and to be able to thrive in their careers. And I think that's the nice blend that we have is that
Yeah.
we deliver great learning interventions in a much more blended way.
Yeah.
So we're catering for different learning styles,
Yeah.
but we also have those come back to those ongoing coffee chats that help encourage conversation around what's been
Yes.
learned, what have they
Yes.
taken away, how are
yeah,
they transferring that, and
yeah.
what's the difference it's really making.
Yes, yeah, and I love the bit there about difference. So I know, like since the pandemic, and it was really hard for hospitality, the industry that you work in. And over the last year or two, it's been great transformation. We've seen with Haven really move forward from that perspective. How are you starting to measure the success? So when you do a training program, or how do you get that rich feedback of it? Has it landed right, or what have you taken from it? How have you started to embed that more?
Yeah, so do you know what, measures of success is always a good conversation to have. I mean, obviously you've got your instant measures of success from a personal point of view, which you kind of better known as your happy sheets, right? So you want to
Yes,
know that you've delivered a great,
yeah,
valuable experience. You want to
yeah,
know that there's an element of commitment to transfer from the outset
yes,
once people, move away from that learning intervention. And
yeah,
you want to know that they're also going to be advocates of that learning to others. So I think there's three key measures there that would fit
yeah,
into that level one, level
yeah,
two of immediate response. I think the
yeah,
biggest part of it, though, and it can be the biggest part that's often missed, is actually stripping it back right to the start. And actually, when you start to talk about learning, that's
yeah,
when you start to talk about the reason why,
yes,
what data or what insight is
yeah,
telling us that this is a need,
yeah,
and what would we expect the learning intervention to deliver. So
yeah,
it's one of the first things you need right
yeah,
up front, because that enables you then to make sure that you're designing in the right way and you're building in the right
yeah,
way.
good,
But it
yeah,
also gives you the points of reference that once you've delivered it, and obviously you can deliver
yes,
it through very many different
yeah,
opportunities, it allows you to come back to it and say, did we get there? Did we
yes,
achieve? And everything's
yeah,
really, and I think, to say that you'd have one or two measures that fit everything would be wrong. I think every
yeah,
learning intervention, comes with a different set of the reason why, but also the
yeah,
measures that we know that it's done what it needs to do and it's going to be successful.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's that bit of closing the loop of
Yeah,
actually going back to that why is super important rather
yeah,
than just sheep dipping training. So we need to
yeah,
know why and the embedding part of it. Then there's that closing the loop. And I know, like you said, like that feedback loop, the happy sheets from that kind of bit to get that. But then it's that richer bit of also getting that qualitative feedback from stakeholders. How's it landed? How's it gone? That's really rich. And that's a great L&D department, isn't it? That they're going out, they put their neck on the line to say, come on, tell us warts and all what's gone on, how's that landed.
yeah.
It's fantastic. And what would you say from your point of view if you took about what kind of innovation trends? I know we talked about technology, etc., but what other trends are you starting to see in the L&D world that you've noticed? Could be other companies or anything like that. What you started to notice in trends?
So trend-wise, again, I think technology and how that's advanced, and I touched on technology, and we've got AI that now is being heavily talked about, not just from
Yeah,
an L&D perspective, but from every
yeah,
perspective really. And I think what AI will do is sort of at the very early stages, but I think that will enable and help to receive and give that personalized experience through learning, and
yes,
I think that that
yeah,
that will be a big win. The trends I'm seeing mainly is that people want to learn in the flow of work. So
yes,
actually, we can quite often be time poor. We've all got
yes,
great jobs
yeah,
to do, and we want to deliver those at the best
yeah,
we can. So actually, then learning can sometimes take a back seat. So
yeah,
you've got to be innovative to be able to think, how can we embed and how can we feed learning into that flow of work so it
yes,
actually
yeah,
doesn't
good,
become a separate thing. So
yeah,
I think
good,
that we'll see more of that moving forward.
yeah,
I think trends like TikTok is a great example. Obviously others out there, but I think and YouTube,
yeah,
and enabling next generations, future generations to learn in different ways. I
yes,
think they
good,
want to be able to learn and replicate
yeah,
using shorter bite-sized learning rather
yeah,
than
good,
2 hours, 3 hours, or a full
yeah,
day. Because it allows them to kind of have that incremental change and that
yeah,
incremental build through what they're learning. So I
yeah,
think we'll see a lot more of that, and how we can disperse, shorter bursts of learning that are really focused, really impactful,
yeah,
that create the light bulb moments that they need, but actually do not take a lot of time to
yeah,
complete. And also can be embedded in the flow of work,
yeah.
and be much more personalized.
Yeah, and I think that's the we know with AI we use AI quite a bit now within our work, and it has helped us from a moving things forward quicker, some different ideas, different viewpoints, etc. However, it's now starting to look at that Gen Z population about quick speed technology. How can I really get some learning? So, you know, those YouTube shorts or TikTok, they're great things to start going, here's a 30-second minute. People can pick up a lot in those
Yeah.
times, and being agile to fit the need of there's still people that will go, I prefer to read a book, or I prefer to do this, or go on a training course. But there'll be other people going, you know, I've got that quench for thirst now. I need to see it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I think that the biggest challenge is maintaining a social element of learning. I think, you know, we've come so far in technology. My personal view is I don't think it's in its place at the moment to be truly collaborative and truly social. I think it's great that you can learn, and you can learn at pace through various different digital formats. I think, you know, as we move much more into technology and potential digital L&D, I think the eye needs to be on, and how can we still make it much more a zone where we can collaborate, where we can share. Because you know, working in this profession for a while, I'm a true believer that sometimes the best learning comes from other people's stories. You know, what other people have got to say. You know, their experiences, their challenges, and I think, you know, that's the bit that we still need to kind of keep an eye on, and kind of ensure that we inject. And also, as human beings, it allows us to maintain an element of being social, you know, and I think that's really important as well. You know, it comes back down to those skills I was talking about earlier, in that, you know, through the pandemic, we probably started to lose a bit, you know, that interaction as a team, that ability to communicate really, really well, and, you know, the confidence to be able to communicate well. So I think that's something that we, you know, kind of really need to keep an eye on as we move forward.
And we talked about culture already, but with organizations you've worked with, how has culture played an important part in that L&D role? So over the different companies you've worked with, how important has culture been?
I mean, culture is everything, right? I think we talk about culture. I mean, obviously, culture exists in every business, and I think, again, I keep coming back to the pandemic, but I think that's where we saw any and every culture crack, because it was, you know, it was an accelerated learning experience where we had to work in very, very, very different ways, and in a remote way, and it's very, very hard to maintain a strong culture in a remote world. You know,
good. I totally agree with you. I think there's some people that we've got out there going, oh, you know, people are coming back into the office. I think that's good. We can only do remote culture for so long.
And do you know what? I think the nice thing is it's nice to have that blend. I think, you know, I'm a real collaborative type of person, you know, and you know, going into that pandemic, you know, it changed me as a person quite dramatically, because I didn't have that. I wasn't getting that energy from people around me. And I wasn't feeling the culture. So you kind of almost could be sitting in any room in any business, doing the job. So I think it's highly important. I still think, you know, this is probably going to be another area of focus for a number of years to come, as many organisations start to rebuild or rethink, you know, the culture and what makes that culture, and especially in that hybrid world where every single person, regardless of where you're working, where you're operating, feels the same, and feels part of the same journey, and the same organization. So again, L&D, we have a massive role to play in that, right? You know, because there's a big education piece in there.
And one thing, as an outsider looking in, and the work we've collaborated with you on, it seemed like Haven are really still where other L&D budgets are being held tight, or those kind of things. And I'm not saying Haven is spending fortunes, but they're still committed to developing their colleagues. They're still doing lots of training, lots of development. I mean, that's powerful, isn't it, in this current climate?
Yeah, absolutely, and that just puts a big smile on my face, right? So you know, it's great that we're investing in the right way as well. I think what we tend to do on a yearly basis, and we do look at the business priorities. We do look at, you know, the L&D how L&D can align to those business priorities, so that right from the outset, through planning of budgets, through planning of the following year's activity, we know that the things that we're working on, building, delivering, are going to make a true difference. They're underpinning the direction of the business and the where we're traveling towards.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that is really rewarding for me. That you know that you know we're not spinning lots of different plates. We're spinning
Yes.
plates at a nice pace, the
Yeah.
right plates that we know that are going to come landing down nice and
Yeah.
comfortably and deliver a true outcome and make a
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. And I love the bit there of spinning the right plates is,
Yeah,
but and I just love that at the right pace. And I think that's super important. I think that's a nice transition with Haven over the last couple of years about let's just really set out our plan, our strategy, where we're going, because you do work in a challenging industry of hospitality. It's very seasonal, those kind of bit. But what I love there is it's just because the calmness that comes through from L&D will replicate in the organisation, won't it? From if you're rushing around doing loads of different things, that causes chaos. Whereas actually that calmness, people go, yeah, we know where we're going, we know what training. That's a great place to be, isn't it?
absolutely, absolutely. And I think, you know, say the programs that we're working on do underpin culture, climate. They do underpin, you know, our focus on developing future leaders, great
Yeah,
leaders that are going to be, you know, kind of looking out for teams,
yeah,
you know, and delivering the business results. And I think, you know, it's as I say, it's a nice place to be where we've got pace, the bandwidth to kind of work at things to deliver our best results.
yes,
And we typically work at the methodology. Let's plan it well, let's do it
yeah,
well, and then
yeah,
let's review it to make sure that you know we
yeah,
achieve what we set out to achieve.
yeah, yeah.
And you know everything we do, you know we kind of run through those three stages.
Yes. Yeah, it's fantastic. And would you be able to share kind of with our listeners one of like the most like recent like a successful L&D project or something that's gone well for you? You know, what was your learns or what went well
Yeah,
recently? So
absolutely. And do you know what? I think I kind of touched on it a little bit there, but I think the our focus on leadership and developing leadership capacity, whether it be
yeah,
in role or whether it be, you know, progressing people,
yeah,
creating the platforms for people to progress into
yeah,
further leadership roles.
yeah,
I'm really proud over the past couple of years that we've rebuilt and reformed an approach that we have a grow to program at every single leadership level, which is
yes,
amazing.
yeah,
So you know we're in a position where we can develop team into that first line managers,
yes,
the line managers into HODs, and the
yeah,
HODs into senior leaders.
yeah,
And we deliver a number of cohorts actually every single year for the past couple of
yeah,
years, and we've seen real success because you can say there's a lot about getting the right people on program, and we
yes,
have a really robust method of kind of identifying, you know, who's ready, you know, who's
yes,
got the potential, who's
yeah,
at that already at that high performance,
yeah,
and ready to kind of move on to that next one. So identifying the right people was really key, but then developing the right stretch within the learning, it was fundamental to ensuring that then people move on. And what
yeah,
we've seen actually, when we look at the people that have attended program and the people that have moved on, it's been really rewarding that you know the numbers are high, you know,
yes,
and that was the sell. You know, if we're looking to mobilize talent, internal
yes,
talent, and we're developing programs to
yeah,
unlock that, then at the end of that, you want to be able to see them progressing and moving
yes,
into role, and whether
yeah,
that's become even better, even stronger in their existing roles, or
yeah,
actually, you know, moving up another level.
yeah,
I think the bit that I'm looking forward to, and again, it comes back down to that, you know, the world is changing. Is
yeah,
you know, not everyone's career trajectory is upwards, and I think
correct,
you know,
yeah,
there's a real focus now and great conversations going on, and how can we create depth and broadness just as
yeah,
much as we
good,
create that
yeah,
upward
spot on,
trajectory.
yeah,
How do we, you know, broaden people's career paths so that
yeah,
they have variation, variety within
yeah,
what they do? They get involved in different things.
yeah, spot
Actually,
on, yeah,
there's a again high engagement there. So I think that will be the next phase. Now we've got that kind of grow to leadership, and we've seen great success come through
yeah,
that. It's much more around as roles change and develop. How do we then develop
yeah,
the broadness in people?
yeah,
And I think
yeah.
that's the great piece that we're focusing on right now.
Yeah, and do you know what, Dino? I love that. So people talk about leadership, which is probably your top 20% of people. Then you have managers, and leadership and management go together. They're not mutually exclusive.
Indeed.
So, but you need those managers to. You still want to improve skills, capabilities, and they want to do a good job. The bit where we challenge organisations is you can't just forget about those people.
Indeed.
Pure reason being their skill set they've got today will not be the skill set they need in 6 months or a year's time, the way we're moving. So I just love that you're still thinking about the broadness of those other 60, 70, 80% of people, because they're running a big part of your business, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I think
Yes.
that's where certain organizations we do come across that go, let's just focus on the 20% that are going to move through the career ladder. But actually, what about the other 80% that's keeping the engine going?
Absolutely.
And so I love that broadness of thinking of, and actually that real nice balance of thinking. I think
Yeah.
that's super important and grounded. If that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think it's an exciting place to be. I think there are so many opportunities out there, and even from an L&D perspective, I think we're living in a world that's very, very fast paced now. That roles are changing. Some roles won't be there in the future.
Yeah.
We need to be looking much, much more forward
Yes.
to anticipate what changes will take place, and equipping our teams with the skills today, so that in 2 years' time, 3 years' time, 5 years' time, they're automatically ready to go with the anticipated changes that will be there.
Yeah, and it's fantastic because I've come across quite a range of your colleagues on courses and work with, and I've been blown away by their commitment, their passion, their belief in Haven and where Haven's going, the culture aspect that they can talk to people, chat through their ideas, etc. But also the team that work with you from the L&D team, how they're so passionate to develop but listen and keep changing. It's just so refreshing, and as a third party, wonderful to see. Really wonderful to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So you must be beaming, as that
Oh,
say.
well, I'm always beaming, Stephen. You
Yeah.
know me. I think for me, it's always been about doing worthwhile, meaningful work that really truly makes a difference.
Yes.
And I've been in that zone for a number of years now, and I think it's great. It's a great place to be because I work in L&D like many other L&D professionals probably do. We've got the opportunity to leave and create legacy moments. We create legacy moments for businesses because we support and underpin transformational change and growth. But more importantly, we create legacies for individuals. And I think, if we can do something, encourage someone, create belief in an individual. It's like me and my career story. They'll go on and talk about that and remember that for many years to come. And that's what we're about. We're about understanding every single individual, what they need, and what difference or what value can we bring that creates legacy moments. And I'm proud of my team because they are so passionate, and they do an amazing job, but they're creating change and making a difference, and that's the biggest reward for us.
And I think just that word there is change is inevitable. So you either get on the bus and go with it, or you are going to be left behind, if that makes sense. Yeah, really good. So we always get the last question, Dino, is about what are you working on for your personal development still in 2024? What's Dino working on?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think my own personal development is really, really important to me, and I'm really, really committed to it. And again, I'm going to go back and just to sort of feed into this. So the pandemic changed me quite a bit as a person, how I operate and how I lead and how I interact. And that was because as I said, I'm an in-person person, get my energy from people, really collaborative, to have those great conversations. So that created a bit of change. And so coming out the pandemic, I had to really re-educate myself on how can I build really great, deep, meaningful relationships across the board, because I've been stuck behind a screen for a couple of years that weren't transactional. So there was a bit of courage there to step back into that and re-educate myself in that space. There was also a piece around influence for me, and how can I use my area of expertise, use my experience to positively influence decisions that were being made, and obviously the changes that could occur as a result of. So there was a bit there, and I guess that that's become easier as I've started to extend and broaden my network, and I guess reconnect with lots of different people. And there was a bit around personal brand in there as well, and how can I elevate my personal brand,
Yeah.
not just internally, actually, externally, because I think, I'm really passionate about what I do. I've been fortunate enough to be, have been involved in a lot of things through my career, been given those opportunities and those platforms, and I've got the gift now to be able to make a difference and talk about those things and create change in potentially how people think, and not just within the business, but actually within the sector, within the L&D profession that we serve. So there have been things that I've been working through. I've had some great coaching, and I think I'm truly a believer in the power of coaching. I think it makes it much more personalized through me to me. And I've seen a real change, not just a change to where I was before the pandemic or back to where I was before the pandemic. I've gone up even further in my own confidence, my own belief, and my own, I guess, skill set. So my last few words on personal development is that it's something that you should never stop doing. It should be something that you should commit to if you want to keep being relevant and continue to grow your career. And learning can come from so many places. And I would say that every conversation that you have with anyone, always come away and reflect and think about what you can take away from that conversation as a person, whether it might be something you've learned or way that you interacted. But definitely take something away from every conversation you have in life, because if you do that, your toolkit is going to be massive, and it'll make you stronger as a person.
Yeah, and I just love that there, Dino, just to finish up on that about stronger as a person. That's in work and out of work, isn't it? So those kind of bits, and then the other bit of take from those conversations. I just love it. Anyone I speak to, I reflect in the evening and go, right, what have I taken from that conversation? How am I moving forward? And I just think that's a rich, good learning place to be, isn't it? That's a nice place to be, isn't it?
It's a lovely place to be, and I think sometimes we don't appreciate how much learning we actually get on a day-to-day basis. I think our heads go to, well, learning is either a piece of digital content or it's being in a classroom. Actually, you learn from every different scenario that you come across in every single day. You're interacting with different people. You're learning about them and potentially what they've been through and their challenges. So I think taking that time to reflect at the end of each day around what have I got out of today? What have I learned today? What am I going to carry forward that's going to help me in my role or my career? And also having an appreciation that whilst you're getting that throughout the day, every day you're kind of in the office or at work or out of work, you've got the opportunity to give it as well. And I think that, so there's, for me, every conversation I have, it's what can I give? What can I contribute to this conversation that will help this person learn or trigger a light bulb moment?
Well, it becomes a win-win, and it's a nice place, isn't it? I think if you're a person that just takes, there becomes a point where people go, I'm going to stop giving because you're not returning anything back to it. And that could be a meeting, it could be development, it could be training. Whereas I always think of every scenario you go into, how can we create a win-win for everybody? Then that's a nice place to be. And then it's mutual, it's fair, it's consistent, and that rings through. So, Dino, we get asked a lot, how can people connect with you? What's the best way if they want to reach out, ask any more questions about L&D or just to see the Dino travels? How can people connect with you?
Best way to connect with me if you're on LinkedIn is through LinkedIn. I think definitely, drop me a connection. I'm always happy to connect with people and again, to learn and to share and to collaborate. So reach out to me. I'm there.
Yeah, fantastic. So, Dino, can I just say a massive thank you for today coming on? I really, really appreciate it. I think people have got real good insight about the travel you've been on, the journey that you've been on, the learnings, the rich kind, and that L&D approach that really is, if we cut you in half, there's L&D reeking through there, isn't it? Just oozing out, you can see from that perspective. So, Dino, I just want to wish you, have a really enjoyable rest of the day. A huge thank you for coming on Inspiring Thoughts podcast today. And I look forward to catching up with you soon. Really appreciate it, Dino.
Brilliant, Stephen. Thank you very much and have a great weekend.
Lovely. Cheers, Dino.